Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you for being here tonight. We're here for our budget work session tonight. We're going to open up with prayer. I'm going to ask if Commissioner Edwards will lead us in our prayer. Commissioner Cowan, if you would lead us in our pledge. Thank you.
Everyone would bow their heads, please. Dear Lord, we thank you for another day that we have to come together and do the business of the county. We ask for wisdom and guidance. We ask that you use this knowledge that we're given to the betterment of Newton County, the betterment of your kingdom. We ask for discernment, and we ask these things in Jesus Christ's name. Amen.
Amen. Thank all of you for being here this afternoon, this evening, rather. Thank all of y'all for being here. We're going to turn it over to Mr. Sims.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Good evening, everyone. We are here this evening to present our fiscal year 2023 proposed budget. Our mission is a safe, well-planned community that respects and values an informed citizenry, embraces diversity, preserves natural resources, and cultivates economic and social opportunities. Our budget goals, we were focusing, concentration is given on employee retention. We also wanted all of our departments and agencies the opportunity to present their requests to the full board during a work session. We also wanted an alignment with our strategic plan. Each department began with a zero in their funding, and they had to defend their proposed budgets. So last time when we presented on the 31st of May, we took you all's feedback, and we are here with three options. The option one, we are requesting or proposing a general fund budget that reflects $82,935,327. The changes that were made from the proposed budget on May 31st to now, we removed $1 million transfer to capital improvement funds. We also reduced the transfer to the workers' compensation fund by $500,000. We reduced the contingency by $250,000. We reduced the contingency for new positions by $64,530, and we increased our loss collection revenue by $573,144. Overall budget impact, total budget was reduced by $1,814,530. Our property tax was reduced by $2,387,674, and this budget supports what you all asked us to do as a rollback millage rate of 9.454. How we were able to accomplish this, this budget reflects increase in the loss collections, which offsets the impact to the property taxes. Our 4-year comparison of the general fund total revenues, as you can see, fiscal year 2020 was $74,801,272. Fiscal year 2021, $89,271,172. Fiscal year 2022, budgeted was $77,628,142. And our proposed for fiscal year 2023, $82,935,327. The general fund revenue highlights. Our preliminary tax digest reflects a 22% increase. 2022 digest reflects $4,222,036,316 in comparison to the 2021 digest of $3,471,815,655. And again, that reflects a 22% increase. This budget, proposed budget, supports the millage rate of 9.454. This budget increase in loss collection is $2.9 million. Budget increase in motor vehicle TAV collection is $632,000. And again, I want to emphasize the loss in the TAV collections are 68% of the increase in revenues from fiscal year 22 to 23. Our four-year comparison for our expenditures and fiscal year 20, $71,731,265. Fiscal year 2021, $72,199,966. Fiscal year 2022 budgeted $77,628,142. And again, the proposed fiscal year 2023 expenditures, $82,935,327. Our highlights, we want to emphasize the highlights expenditures for this proposed budget. We are proposing a step increase for all of our employees, which is a cost of $1.4 million. We are proposing bringing our minimum wages up to $15 an hour, which is $300,000. We're proposing a 4% COLA for our employees, which is $1.1 million. So this budget reflects an average 8 to 8.5% increase for all of employees, which includes the step increase in the COLA. This budget also reflects the insurance increase, $720,000, which reflects a 12% increase from last year. The contingency, $250,000, and our new positions, $336,967. And this just is the highlight of the general fund revenues. Fiscal year 2022 was fiscal year 2022 was $77,628,142. Fiscal year 2023 proposed $82,935,327. This reflects a 6.8% increase in comparison to 2022. Our general fund revenues by category, majority of the revenue is based on our taxes, which reflects 87%. Our general fund expenditures, it reflects again a 6.8% increase. And next slide. The expenditures, 64% of our expenditures are personnel services and our employee benefits. A general fund by department, this is where all the departments, as you can see, the proposed budgets in comparison to the original budgets for 2022, as well as a percent change. Overall, I mentioned that we are reflecting a 6.8% increase in comparison to the 2022 original budget. The new positions that we're proposing are listed here. Animal service, the district attorney, elections, our fire, our GIS, probate court, recreation, and all these positions we are proposing will be effective on January 1st, 2023. Our all fund summary, this consists of all of the different funds. Our proposed budget for fiscal year 2023 proposed for all funds, $133,309,717. In comparison to our fiscal year 2022 budgeted, $118,161,981, and that reflects a 12.8% increase, all fund summary in comparison to 2022. All fund summary, as we know, our general fund is our largest fund, which reflects the 62.2% of all the funds. And I want to highlight this particular slide. Based on the feedback that you all provided last time, our 10-year millage rate history. As you can see, the proposed millage rate for 2022 is 9.454, and it reflects a 10-year low in comparison all the way going back to 2012. So we did take what you all gave as guidance, and this proposed option 1 reflects that with the millage rate of proposed millage rate of 9.454. We do have other options. Option 2, general fund budget would be $83,848,360. The big difference in option 2 I want to highlight is that the $1 million for contingency funds is not listed in option 2 nor option 3. In option 2, we are also removing all of the new proposed positions. We are reducing the transfer to workers' compensation fund by $500,000, and we increase proposed loss collection revenue by $573,144. The impact, the total general fund budget would decrease by $901,497, and the property taxes would be reduced by $1,474,641, a millage rate of 9.671, and a $25 increase for a home valued at $300,000. Option 3, again, we are removing the $1 million for capital. We are reducing the contingency by $250,000. We're reducing the transfer to workers' compensation fund by $500,000. We're increasing loss collection revenue by $573,144. And the general fund decreases of $750,000. Property tax reduced by $1,323,144. A millage rate of 9.706, and a $29 increase for a home valued at $300,000. So our next steps, a public hearing at 6 o'clock today, a public hearing on June 28th at 6 o'clock, and our goal is to have our budget adopted June 28th, 6:30 p.m. And we're here for questions.
Thank you, sir. Commissioners, Commissioner Sanders.
I looked on the digital version, but I don't see it on here, and I know we had questions in regards to the other departments and the nonprofits that were taken down to $2,500. Is that, do we know what page that's on in here? Is that, has that been corrected? Are we doing all nonprofits $2,500? Because I just want to know why certain ones were taken down to $2,500.
There's been no changes to the appropriation from the last budget presented.
So those 3 that I mentioned are at 25.
Yes.
So can you explain why those 3 were actually chosen to go down to 25, and there's other nonprofits on there that were not decreased?
The only 3 nonprofits that I was aware of were McIntosh, Nelson Heights, and Washington Street.
CID is a nonprofit.
Sorry?
CID is a nonprofit.
And that's where we may need to loop Patrick in on this a little bit, because when I sent out the request to all the appropriations, I had put a blurb in there that said, if you are a nonprofit, please let me know, because I will need to send you a different application. Because I don't really have a way of knowing per se.
Well, how I knew is no, because we were in the Splosh committee. All of us were there at the Splosh, and they identified that in the Splosh meeting. So that's how I found out. I had no idea myself, and I found it out. But if we're going to, and this has nothing to do with CID, and I'll make sure I put this on record because people twist my words. This has nothing to do with certain nonprofits and so forth. If we're gonna do that for all nonprofits, take them down to 2,500, because we did not even release that resolution. When we did the resolution last year, we never released the application. A lot of citizens were told the application was not even available yet. It's not even on the website.
The application was on the website.
Yes, it's probably now, but it was not released to the public, nor was there a public notice to the public saying that this need to be filled out and we do a minimum of 2,500, especially to those that we actually allocated funds to last year at a certain amount. So it looks kind of skeptical. That's why I'm asking that question, because if we're going to be fair with all across the board, everybody need to be 2,500.
Yeah, I completely agree. If we have a policy in place and all nonprofits should receive 2,500, then it should be fair across the board. So that's where I would probably want to, like I said, get with Patrick to determine exactly who qualifies as a 501 and who are, because some of these I know are authorities, so they're kind of like, for lack of other words, quasi-government authorities. So
Right.
I would need to get with legal, determine who actually qualifies as a 501 and who's more of like a spin-off government authority.
All of those are 501s, and I don't want to see any 501 lose their funding. But if we're going to do it, I don't want to see any 501 lose their funding from what we had previously, because obviously they wouldn't be we wouldn't be providing appropriation if they did not need it. So it looks kind of skeptical, and I'm going to put it out there that on those three, we're targeted.
Go ahead, Jarvis. I mean,
Commissioner Sanders,
I'm sorry.
I think that decision happened before I got here, but when I did speak with staff, I was instructed that you all approved that amount for the nonprofits. And as for some of the ones that you're mentioning, the CID, they might have a status of nonprofit, but I'm kind of similar thinking with Brittany, that they kind of operate kind of like a quasi-government, and I know, it might be different, but that's my understanding with the CID. Now, some of the other ones, as far as like Board of Health and things of that nature, I mean, those appropriations are appropriate, the funding that are appropriate for them, and I don't think that where all of our nonprofits provide a needed services for our community, I do know that if we reduce, say, Board of Health or something like that to a $2,500, I know it will be a more devastating impact in our community in comparison to some of our other nonprofits.
So the nonprofit for McIntosh is dealing with the youth. Isn't that a early childhood development youth program? So that's messing with the youth. And what we did after we did that resolution, and you weren't not here, Jarvis, we came back with another resolution that included all those nonprofits and gave them their allocation that they actually requested. And that was done in August. The first one was done in May, I believe. I might have the dates wrong. Ms. Jackie actually sent me the documents. And then we came back in August and did another resolution and included all those nonprofits and gave them their allocation. And that's documented. We did that. So that's why I'm asking that question of why we're doing that this year. Because if they have been on as appropriation for, I don't know how many years, this is my second year on the board, y'all can correct me. If we've been doing that for that long, then there needs to be an explanation on why you feel they're not an impact. I would like to hear, and I possibly would agree with it if there's something legitimate, that why they are not an impact to the community. When you have McIntosh Trail and that's youth, that's our children. And they're only asking for $4,000, and we decreased them down to $2,500. That makes no sense to me.
Commissioner Henderson.
Thank you, Mr. C. Jarvis, I guess this question I'm asking you, where are you getting your information from? Because I heard you say you got it from staff. And did you do any prior research as to, I know for a fact, because I had received the copies, and when they moved my desk of all the county bills and stuff that we're using, and when they moved my desk, they moved all the copies that I had, so I'm requesting another copy. But it seems you're getting your information from, I guess, seeing like maybe you said just from staff instead of just maybe directly asking the commissioner themselves. And that to me a little bit concerns me personally, because I think, I would hope that we would have the same relationship as merged as you would be a staff member, and you would think, so well, maybe I need to ask maybe Commissioner Henderson on a certain issue and find out, maybe his side, but instead I'm finding that it's not the case, and not exactly this issue right here, but some other two as well, in which maybe in the near future we'll discuss those two as well. But I think if you want to get maybe an inaccurate picture of the appropriations and other, talk to some of the commissioners and ask them personally. And maybe it's been my fault to a certain degree, because I haven't took out the time, because I was out campaigning, and I found out that there was a whole lot of folks in my campaign that shouldn't have been in there, but that was fine with me because I'm used to that. It's been like a straight uphill ever since I've been on this board of commissioners. But, and I kind of look past that. But I think, in order for us to have a relationship that I think that you and I, District 4 Commissioner, you and District 3 Commissioner, and District 5, and District 1 and District 2, I think you're going to have to maybe more than just once a year or once, once you come aboard and talking to maybe us about it and maybe getting an opinion from us as far as what you're coming up with when it concerns the community. Because the only ones that I've seen that it seem to be affecting is those in the people of color communities. And I think that shouldn't be. It should be looked at as a whole.
Go ahead, sir.
Well, Commissioner Henderson, I take that, and I will be happy to reach back out to you to get on your calendar and kind of coordinate a meeting. We did that. I did that when I first got on board, and I have met with, and I know you have been campaigning, so I haven't reached out. And I have called you a couple times and no callbacks. But I have reached out to all of the commissioners. I like to tell everyone here that I work for the county. I don't work for one just particular district. So I'll be happy to follow back up with you and talk with you.
And just follow up on what you said. And you're right, but I think you work for all five of us. It's not necessarily a majority of maybe
Right.
3, but all 5 of us. And I think that there should be of working with all of us and maybe seeing our views is where they should. And not so well as yourself, Jarvis, so should Mr. Patrick, too, as well, Patrick. He should be on those same page and that same line. Thank you, sir.
Yes, sir.
Commissioner Sanders.
And I know Washington Street was one of those individuals that was taken down to 2,500 as well. So they've been in community helping our youth, our kids. So I would like for us, and I don't know what the other board's feeling is, I know I'm only one vote on this board, but I would like for us to look at that because we're digging into things that can affect communities. So we need to definitely look deeper and maybe discuss that. Because like I said, I don't know what the other commissioners are feeling about it. Are they okay with it? Like, I'm only one vote. So if the board goes majority with it and say that's where they want to go, then I have to deal with that. But I just think that there needs to be equality. Because if we did that last year and created another resolution and made sure all those nonprofits were on there and got their funding, what is happening this year?
Go ahead, Patrick.
If I could address a couple of quick things. First of all, Commissioner Sanders, you're correct. In May of 2021, this board approved a policy that limited appropriations to $2,500 to each of these nonprofit entities. That's the policy created by this board. Now, granted, a few months after that, the board did something contrary to that policy, which remains the board can do that. Your staff can't. Your staff, I think, is still obligated to operate under the official policy created in May of 2021, which is to limit the appropriations at $2,500 per nonprofit. If this board wants to do differently, this board can do so. The second thing I'd like to point out, the 2 entities that you specifically mentioned, the McIntosh Trail Community Service Board and the CID, those probably are not nonprofits the way we all understand nonprofits. McIntosh Community Service Board is a governmental agency. It's created by the state of Georgia. A community improvement district is a hybrid governmental organization. I don't think either one of those are what anyone would contemplate when you're thinking about 501c3s. I doubt either of them even have a regular tax status because they're governmental type entities, but I don't know. We'll find out. I'll find out what their tax status is. But I do think those 2 particular entities are different than the nonprofits at which your May 2021 policy is addressed. So I'll look into those further, but I think they're different creatures.
Commissioner Cowan.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Help me if I'm misunderstanding here, but it was my understanding that we were going to do a minimum amount for all the nonprofits, okay, $2,500. And then, as they made their presentation, if they needed more money, then they had to go through some steps, providing us books what their needs were, things like that, so that we could see that. There are some nonprofits, like Washington Street School, some of the other areas that have asked for more money, and we've appropriated them, but they all have their financials in order. And that's what I think I thought the goal was, to get all the nonprofits having their books and financials in proper order so that we could review it and so the public could look at it. So that's my understanding. That I think we're in the middle of the process, which we've done the $2,500 deal. I was not here for whatever reason. I think I was sick during that time when we did that appropriations presentation. But it was my understanding that we were going to go one more step, which would be if they needed more money above the minimum, because some nonprofits come in, they're brand new, we don't have any history on them. You know, it sounds good, but we don't want to extend so much money out there that we're throwing money away. So I think the $2,500 was designed for that. And then we were going to, if they were wanting more money, we wanted to see their financials and some checkoff lists of what they were needing the money for. Is that everybody's understanding, or is that just something that went through my head?
I got Commissioner Mason first, and then I got
Commissioner
you.
Mason.
Commissioner Mason.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I was trying to find it in the online, and maybe y'all can tell me where it is, where it's actually broken down in the appropriations, because I didn't see it in the packet either, and I didn't see it online as well. And if you're able to tell me where that is, so that I can actually see it visually for myself to ensure that we do have those numbers accurate. And then secondly, and I don't know if we even know this, maybe this is a question for our appropriations. If our appropriations, if they're getting additional funding outside of what we're giving them, are they getting grant monies? Are they fundraising? Are they only reliant upon the monies that we actually give to run their appropriations? And I don't know if that's something that this board knows, or if our appropriations have provided that data or information to us, whether or not they're solely only dependent upon what this board provides, or are they getting other monies outside of our appropriations? So that was another question I have, and I don't know, Brittany, if you have that information or not. I don't know. Because that can kind of help us as well determine what will be the best solution in regards to what we are providing to our appropriations. If they are soliciting funds outside of what we are giving them, if those additional funds that they're soliciting is helping them provide that service, is it even a possibility that one day they eventually may be able to be self-sufficient, where they won't even have to obtain monies because they're obtaining monies outside of this board?
Commissioner Mason, this is the digital budget book here.
Okay.
And then if you go to departments, you have our departments. And then if you go down to payments to outside agencies, that's the department that all the appropriations are housed in.
Thank you. That's what I didn't do. I didn't scroll over to departments. Thank you. That helps.
Go ahead, Jarvis. Mr. Sims.
So I just want to say what Director White just stated as far as where you can find the appropriation. And I will say, if it is the will of the body for us to address and have those three nonprofits to receive the same funding from the previous year, we are able to do that. But again, that'd be the will of the body, if that's what you all, as Patrick stated, you all would like for us to do.
I got Commissioner Sanders, and I got you.
Just to clarify, in May, we did the resolution. When did we vote for the budget? for last year? What month was that?
August 17th. That's when the resolution was
Oh,
adopted.
okay, I just wanted to get clarified.
And my understanding was when we adopted this policy, we were not going to start it until FY '23 because most of the process had already passed prior to the policy being adopted, because the policy wasn't adopted until May, but most of the deadlines had already passed. Because you had to, we had to have the application up, I think in January, February, then they had to come present to the board in March. So since all of those dates had already passed, the policy would be implemented in FY '23.
Commissioner Cow.
I think it's critical, though, that we have an opportunity to look at everybody's books. Because we need to know that checks and things like that, however they're written, that they go to an appropriate use, and that brings back to confidence that the public would have in the Board of Commissioners, that we're watching over any appropriated money. Don't get me wrong, I think all the entities out there provide a valuable service. But I do think we're slack on asking for reports and accounting and taking a look at their books. I have no reason to believe anybody's doing anything wrong. I really don't. But I think it goes to serve the public's interest to make sure that there's some oversight in any kind of county money, taxpayer money, whatever you want to call it, that goes out, that we oversee it by taking a look at how it was spent. And if we run into something where there's been misappropriations or things like that, then you have to deal with that at some point. But that's my goal, is to make sure that what we put out there is properly accounted for.
Commissioners Henderson.
Thank you, Ms. C. Well, you know, and I totally agree with you, Ronnie, 100%. There should be transparency in wherever our taxpayers' funds are spent, and that's good. And I think, you know, you should ask for whatever books that you may want, ask for them. But at the same time, you just want to cut folks off, you know, on a whim, you know. So, well, I think we should follow through, maybe request for all the books, so you look at the nonprofit as far as who's spending what, or like you said, what checks have been written, if you want to get that from the accountant. And I'm sure that Anthony would do that as far as Nelson Heights is concerned. But let's do that all the way around. Let's make sure transparency should be right here around the Board of Commissioners. And let's be transparent on how many suits that we may have out there. And let's just open all this up to the public so that they'll see. I mean, it's good for appropriations that we ask, but let's have transparency throughout the county. And I think that's the way our government should run. And that's what I've been asking for a long time. Let's make sure that every board that we have, like at the over the landfill, solid waste authority, let's make sure that that the citizens in the county can see what they're talking about. Let's make sure that and I thought that's what they had said shortly before you got here, Commissioner Sanders. They had told me, well, yeah, we finna do it, we got it, but we haven't got it. Until we do that, then we will truly be transparent. Let's count for the taxpayers' dollars, and we should. But let's do it everywhere in this county. And let's stop talking about it, and let's do it.
Commissioner Mason.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So this appropriation spreadsheet here, is this going to be the same for all three of the proposals that you all proposed to us today with the three different budgets?
Yes.
This will remain the same?
Appropriations remain the same.
Okay. Thank you.
Okay. Patrick, go ahead.
Mr. Chairman, if I could, to Mr. Cowan's comment, I want to read one section from the policy that was adopted in May of 2021. It's right after, it's in the paragraph called award. It says, please note, $2,500 is the maximum external appropriation to the individual nonprofit entities seeking an appropriation, period. There's nothing in this particular policy that contemplates giving more than that. Y'all have probably all heard me say this. There's a lot of things here that I have run across in the past 6 or 7 months where there is no policy. There is no county policy, there's no official policy, and it ends up with a lot of people butting heads because what do we do? This is one that there is a policy, but it doesn't sound like it's the policy that some of these board members want. So I think what I would prefer you to do is either stick with this policy or change the policy, because what it's created today, which you've heard, is some tension between elected officials and staff. Staff, I think, is limited to this policy. You don't want to adopt a policy and then let your staff decide, well, they're a good organization, we're going to bust the policy. And you don't want that. I don't want you to have that. So I don't know if now is the right time, because I haven't spent any time preparing a new policy, but it might be the right time to start thinking about a new policy. I mean, ultimately, y'all want to give money, look, there are some issues with giving these appropriations, and you've all been through this before, and we can resolve those issues. I don't want you to think as much money as you want to give away, give away. But I think this conversation is exactly why you don't see most local governments do this. What you see with most local governments that perhaps do trickle money down to private nonprofits, they do it through one other agency. They either give some money every year to, a United Way type agency who then maybe distributes the money, or more typical and more common is they just don't give those money. So again, I don't want to suggest you leave any organization hanging, but I do want to suggest that you do have a policy, and if this policy doesn't reflect the will of the board, then it should be changed. You're the policymaker. You as an entity make that decision.
Commissioner Mason.
So with these appropriations that we've actually decreased their fundings, have we had an opportunity to have a conversation with them to see if this will potentially negatively impact the services that they provide to the community? Or, as I mentioned in my previous question or statement, are these organizations getting other funding outside of this board and will still be able to sustain themselves with this particular cut? Do we even know that?
Okay, so the answer to your first question, I think Patrick summed it up just perfectly.
Okay.
With the policy in place of $2,500 maximum, we were adhering to our policy.
That policy, right.
As far as having the conversations with the nonprofit, we did not, because we were adhering to our existing policy. If the will of the body is to change the policy, then so we will do that. As far as your second question, I don't know if it's appropriate. I mean, we can if it's the board decision, but to ask them, there are different funding sources. We know that this is one of their sources, but as far as if they have 4, 5, 6, or 7 funding sources and how much, I mean, I don't know if that's the will of the body, if that's what you all want us to do, but in my past, I haven't asked, those types of questions. If there's an appropriation that's decided on the board, we give them the appropriation, and we we know it's going to make an impact in the community, and we go that way.
And I guess what I was alluding to was not so much as asking specifically where their funding resource comes from, just asking if we weren't able to provide the funding that we have in the past, will that potentially negatively impact them? Or if their funding was decreased, would they still be able to sustain themselves however they deem necessary? Not that we have to ask, well, what are your specific sources of funding? But if you didn't have the same funding as you did in the past, are you able to still provide the services that you were if you didn't get this amount of funding from this board? If that makes sense.
It makes sense, but we adhere to our policy of
Right.
maximum of $2,500.
So we're saying that basically the other appropriations are a different type of entity or a different type of appropriations outside of the ones that have 2,500.
Yes, and
They're
we'll-
completely different.
we can just kind of highlight a few of them. If you would scroll down for me. So some of the other appropriations, we have Newton County DFACS, Newton County Library, Newton County Mental Health, Newton County Physical Health, the IDA, Alcove, CASA, just a listing of some of the other funding appropriations who receive funding from us.
So none of these qualify as the ones that you mentioned. For example, when I look at Newton County DFACS, where we're giving them $109,619 as an appropriation. So Newton County DFACS is a different type of appropriation than Washington Street Community Center. They're completely different types, so we handle them differently. I guess that's what I'm asking.
Based
Because
on
if-
our interpretation, yes.
Okay. So do we know what the difference is so that maybe this board can help understand what that difference is and why we're treating them differently? Because I think that's where the conflict is coming in, because we're thinking, okay, if we have a policy in place and everybody that's on this appropriation list should only receive $2,500, then why do we have some that have more and some have $2,500? So we want to understand what is the difference between the ones that only have $2,500 in comparison to the ones who have more. I guess that's what we're trying to figure out.
So let me jump in also. I think Brittany, it's required for, when they come before the board to present their appropriations, what the money is used for, and, if they get funding from other sources as well. Is that correct?
Yeah, so I actually got Brian to pull up the application that was sent out to all of the appropriations, and I thought it would help to answer some of Commissioner Mason's questions. So hold on one second. So this is the application that was sent out to the 501c3s, and also the same application that was put on the website. So there are questions that are asked, and all of this information was included in the budget workshop books that I provided to y'all during the budget workshop. So y'all should have copies of all this if you still have your books, and if not, I'm happy to send you a copy. So we asked them for an amount, and there was an asterisk there that said max $2,500. There's funding sources, and then there's several other questions just regarding their funding at the county. What kind of impact you would get if the county didn't fund. So pretty much all the questions that Commissioner Mason was asking are already in this application.
Thank you, Brittany. So
We do have the answers to those questions.
Yeah. And for the last one, I guess I'm asking Patrick, can you chime in on the,
So I looked at that list of the other agencies that were up there. DFACS is a government agency, so I think the agencies that are government or quasi-government agencies, I don't read that policy as applying to those. Now, I'm only reading that policy. I wasn't involved in crafting it or discussing it. But as I read that policy, it appears to be directed at private, nonprofit entities performing a service sort of separate and beyond from what the government does. There it is. I don't know what some of these others are. I don't know what Newton County Mental Health is, if that's funding that's going to the health department or going to some third-party entity. I don't know. There also might be another avenue worth looking at. It might be that there are nonprofit entities that are performing a per-unit type service to the county. You know, and I'm thinking maybe CASA. CASA is a private nonprofit entity. I don't know if maybe there's some contract with the juvenile court or some contract with the probate court where they're paid a specific amount per case to perform their services. I don't know that. If you have that type of contract in place, then it's not really appropriation. It's just a contract for a service. I mean, you can, even nonprofits can enter into contracts. So they could be selling you widgets and you buying widgets, and that's just purchasing a service. You know, we do that. We already pay public defender. Y'all approved that last go-around. You approved money for attorneys for public defender and for guardian ad litems in probate court. It's theoretical that could have been provided by a nonprofit law firm if you can find one, but that would have just been payment for a service. So I think it's worth spending a little time, and I'm happy to get with Brittany and walk through these. But this may be a situation where your policy was intended to do one really narrow thing, and it really doesn't capture what, and first of all, it sounds like it doesn't really capture what this board wanted. And second of all, maybe it captured more than what this board wanted. I mean, maybe we need to look at all of your appropriations and make a determination about whether or not does the board view different appropriations differently? Are there some entities that you view the service they provide differently than others? I'm not a fan of that if it's just purely subjective. Again, I think one of the comments I made, I think it was when we were talking about the ARPA stuff, is I don't like that we're making decisions based on the who. I want you to make a decision based on the policy. And I think you're going to see Mr. Sims and I, some unrelated matters, bring you some policies that will probably cause some heartburn, but they're designed to create solutions that are easier to manage. But I do think it would be worthwhile to look at some of these other things that are under the appropriations and find out exactly what's going on with them, and I'll do that. I can tell you, like the Development Authority, that's a quasi-governmental entity. That's going to be a little bit different. Again, Macintosh Trail is a quasi-governmental entity. And Newton County Physical Health, I don't know what that means. Mental health, I'm not sure what that means. I mean, I know what they mean, but I don't know what the entity is, so we'll find out.
Commissioner Henderson?
Well, I guess the question that I guess I'm asking, and I guess it's the same question that I maybe asked over the years, is why do we have those people from appropriation come up here and stand in front of the horseshoe? And you tell them, so, well, what are you asking for? And they all came up, and we told them nothing about this policy that we may be looking at this particular time. I mean, what I'm saying. So I guess what we talking about, we have a policy now.
We're working on it.
Okay, what we're working on now is it's gonna change what they're doing right now rather than putting it on the front end so that they would know. And I don't think that's right. In fact, I know it's not right. But let me just say this in a little bit that I deal with, this appropriation especially, Nelson Heights. We had the opportunity around 2016 to go to the Bright to Start program. In fact, the county, the board, had agreed to use their EIN number to do it. Everything was perfect. Came back the next week, said, we're gonna lose $8 million if we go ahead and let y'all use Bright to the Start program. So that was the opportunity then for Nelson Heights to kind of start moving out on its own, and yet the Board of Commissioners blocked it. And, you know, so I don't think what I'm saying is there's a whole lot of talk of good intentions, but I think it's kind of more or less the person or persons who's running nonprofit rather than just the nonprofits as a whole. So I think we need to get off that. I think if there's a board member or members or a nonprofit, a person that we may not like, then let's get past that and just do what's right. And I think that that's something that we haven't been doing. And we need to be transparent. And let's stop telling lies to people. I hate lying to people. I do, J.C. Henderson. So let us stop doing that and stand up. If you say we're going to be 1 Newton, let's be, I guess, 1 Newton. If we're going to be transparent, let's be transparent. And that's something we're not doing. And I've been asked the question over and over. In fact, I got bags on my way, the same question. I said, well, hey, it's not me. I said, you ask me a question, I'll tell you the truth. But when you bypass me, then you create your own truth or create your own answer. But I'm the type of person, I've been all my life straight up. But I don't think it's right for us to kind of like stab them in the back now, and rather than give them the opportunity or get the information, whatever it is that you may need, in order to move on a policy that I don't totally agree with. And I'm just end with this. The policy that I thought it was a policy we were looking at for the new appropriation. It wasn't for the existing appropriation. I think while Patrick was speaking, I was thinking, I said, wait a minute. I said, well, that's not what I remember. And so I just want to just bring that out. And one last thing, when it came down to T.K. Allen's building, Miss Terry James, we were supposed to, I thought this board, we were supposed to bring back and bring in with a policy and not go out and change Mr. Berry's policy and all the rest of the policy, which gave everybody a heartburn and myself. And instead of working with them, we just kind of like throw them on the bus. Let's keep our word. Thank you.
Thank you. I got, Brittany, quick question. Is that policy, is that $2,500 limit on the application for the nonprofits?
Yes, there it says per policy, and then scroll down to the bottom. And then these are the items that we asked for, and that came straight out of the policy as well.
Thank you. I got Commissioner Sanders, and then I got Commissioner Cowan.
Commissioner Cowan and Commissioner Henderson is correct, and we probably all need to take charge to go watch that video when it was voted on. We voted for that for new nonprofits coming aboard. Now, I can't control what our previous county manager wrote, but we voted based on new nonprofits coming aboard, and that was mentioned on that video. So we might want to go back and watch that. And adding on to Commissioner Henderson about Bright from the Start, I got certified for that, so if the county need to use that, they had me take the training as a commissioner. So if we want to use that for any of our people, I'm certified as one of the commissioners. Okay, and that's it.
Commissioner Cowan.
Okay, a lot of Commissioner Mason's questions will be answered if we require the books to be brought in, the financial statements and things like that. So you'll know where the money's coming from, and you'll know how much they need. The Patrick's comment, we need to clean the policy up to where we identify the quasi-governmental and what I call extensions of Newton County government, if you want to call it, whatever that entity is. And then we need to get all that into a written policy. And then as far as the other type appropriations, again, we're going to ask them to bring their books in. We're going to ask them, we're going to see what they needed, and we're going to have to make a decision based on what they're asking for. But I thought the 2,500 was a minimum floor amount. I guess I was thinking something. Everybody gets $2,500, but if you need more, you got to justify it. You got to show us something that says you got why you need that. So I think it puts a little more burden on the people that are asking for the money, which is where it should be. So Patrick, you got some stuff to do.
Yeah, I can work on that. I will make a recommendation, just something for y'all to think about. It might make sense from a purely budgetary standpoint that each year you budget X amount of dollars for appropriations. and that just be a dollar. You decide, we're prepared to put this much money into the community for these types of services. And then you decide, of that money, how much are you going to give out, rather than, it's kind of the tail wagging the dog right now. Imagine it's $2,500 minimum. Imagine there's 2,000 nonprofits that show up. You can't afford to give 2,000 nonprofits $2,500. You need to control your budget and then distribute money within your budget. So it feels like you're putting the cart before the horse a little bit by just allowing everybody to come to you and ask for money when you don't have a pot of money to distribute from. Maybe too late to do that now because, I mean, we're an awful long way, but maybe that's something as I work on a policy I propose for you.
Well, that's actually a good idea, because you could appropriate a certain dollar amount and then figure out how the best way to use it.
Mr. Sims?
What Patrick mentioned as far as this budget, this particular budget is, if you all want us to make those changes, we can, but we're trying to have a budget approved and ready to go by July 1st. That was one of the goals that we set forth as a staff. We wanted to make sure this particular year budget was approved on time. So any changes you all want us to do, we would like to, to get that feedback now and then move forward with it. But as far as with the appropriations, if you all want us to restore the appropriation amount to pass, if that's what you all want us to do, or keep it as it is, to adhere to the policy that was passed and that's in place now, then this budget reflects that. We're ready to move on, or move forward.
Thank you, sir. Go ahead, Commissioner Cowell.
Is there any problem with approving what's been approved in the past, but go ahead and requiring a review of all their books and everything before it's, can you do that? I don't know. I
Yeah,
wasn't here for the
you can-
appropriations. I don't know what y'all did.
You can appropriate, and I'll help you with, I'll get with Mr. Sims and come up with some language, but you can make essentially qualified appropriations and say that, they're entitled to these appropriations provided that they provide the
All right, so
information.
we put it conditional.
Yeah, basically
Okay.
that. And we'll work on, I'll get with Mr. Sims and Ms. White, we'll work on that.
Because he wants to get the budget passed, and we do too.
Yeah, this wouldn't hold up. This wouldn't hold up the adoption of the budget.
Okay.
Mr. Sims, see your hand, sir.
So if we don't have any more questions, that concludes this part of the budget presentation.
Thank you, sir. Well, we're going to adjourn and get ready for our public hearing. Got a public hearing scheduled in 2 minutes. So I'm assuming that everybody was in agreement with that process. So I seek a motion that we adjourn. Thank you, sir. Can I get a, thank you, sir. All in favor?
I'm sorry, what are we voting on?
Adjourning. We're adjourning the meeting.
Okay.
Yep.
Adjourn.
All opposed? We stand adjourned. Thank you, guys.
I'm sorry, I walked through here. I know why he's doing it, because the sheriff has done stuff over there. They're trying to. Well, it's not free. People I'll wait by and talk to them about it. I've done that as a city, we did 10% raises for them all the time. But it's a little high. A little high. But you can't keep nobody anyway.
Oh, I understand that. I understand that. Yeah, I got you. Wait. Yes, ma'am. 3 minutes, yes, 3 minutes. 3 minutes. Oh, man. Guys, we're gonna open up, for our budget public hearing. This is an opportunity that we allow citizens to come up and make comments about the budget. You do have 3 minutes to do so. If you would, please come and state your name and your address for the record, please. We're gonna open up for our public hearing now. It's approximately 6:03. Please state your name, your address for the record, please. Yes, sir.
My name is Dwayne Ford, and I am the current chair of the Newton Trails Board of Directors. I live in Covington. You wanted my address? No. I just wanted to express my advocacy for trails, and I want to thank the board for its past investments in our trail system in Newton County, all across Newton County, and for the current project that's underway, creating a countywide plan for trails. But I will also say that I'm disappointed that there's nothing in this budget for trails. Plans are great, visions are great, but without money behind them, you can't realize those dreams. And whether that money comes from the operating budget, the capital budget, the fund balance, the who knows where, the SPLOST that's coming up, doesn't really matter to Newton Trails and the many trail users that we represent. If it's one thing to create plans, it's another thing to invest. And I would encourage you to, in an ongoing way, as you are able, to invest in trails, because I don't think I need to sell any of you based on my conversations with, or our conversations with most of you, and our observations of your work and your past investments. I think you realize the importance of trails for health and wellness, for economic development, for tourism, for alternative transportation. And the big thing on our agenda right now is, of course, the Alcove River Bridge, because we have a trail that's 8 miles on the east side, 6 miles on the west side, that's split in half, that's split by the failure of that bridge. It can't be crossed. And to realize the true potential of that trail, and really any trail, it has to be whole. And, a 14-mile trail will attract more tourism, more economic development activity, more good things than a 6-mile here and an 8-mile there. So that's my case. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Anyone else want to make comments about the budget tonight? If you would, please state your name, your address for the record, please.
Hello, my name is Denise Williams, P.O. Box 1442, Covington, Georgia, 30015. I have several questions. I know years ago Jeff Prine came on as I don't know what was he a consultant or what, but he came on to do the senior services and the animal shelter. And I did an open record request, and I see that Jeff Prine is making $10,000 a month $14,000 a month, $16,000 a month. So as a taxpayer in Newton County, would this board consider hiring a project manager to oversee these projects in the county? And also, I be at the Splash meetings and I be at the BOC meetings. And I know a couple of months ago when Dwayne Mass came up here with some projects that he wanted for the recreation department, Jeff said that Dwayne, but his numbers was too low, and so he needed to increase them by $5 million to get the projects done. So I also attend the Splash meetings, and the same person, Jeff Prime, when Sheriff Ezell Brown presented his budget, Ezell presented a particular number, and then Jeff Prime came back and with a $5 million increase to that. And so the Splash Committee asked Sheriff Brown, why was the number so elevated? Because they weren't making sense. And he said, that's a great question. You have to ask Jeff. And last thing I have is, I've looked at the budget, and could y'all tell me where on the line item, how much money we paid for the lawsuit for Chairman Baines and also for the lawsuit for Melody Bell? Thank you.
Anyone else? Anyone else like to make comments about the budget? Anyone else? One more time, anyone else would like to make comments about the budget? Guys, that end of our public hearing for our budget. I seek a motion that we close this public hearing.
Second.
It's been motioned by Commissioner Edwards and second by Commissioner Mason. All in favor? Passes 5-0. Thank you. Bridget, before we adjourn, do you want to? When is our next public hearing? Job. Oh,
The next public hearing will be next Tuesday, and we will have a public hearing at 6 o'clock, and then a potential budget adoption at 6:30.
That's reserved. Thank you so much. Guys, I seek a motion that we adjourn.
Second.
There's a motion by Commissioner Edwards, second by Commissioner Mason. All in favor? Thank you. Stand adjourned. Okay. Okay. Yeah, 7. Okay. We did a rollback, right? Yeah. We did more than a rollback.
So we did reduce the minutes?
Yeah. We did more than a rollback.